There is a quiet suffering that comes from forcing yourself to move on. You have been told that letting go is the path to peace. Yet when your heart is heavy, when your mind clings to the past, you push yourself to act as though the pain does not exist. You hurry the process of healing, thinking that movement alone will bring freedom. But true peace is never found in force. The mind, like a river, cannot be rushed. If you try to dam its flow or redirect it abruptly, it will only break against your efforts. Pain, loss, regret, these are not enemies to be conquered swiftly. They are teachers, patiently showing you what still needs understanding. When you stop forcing yourself to move on, you begin to see that the first step is not action, but awareness. Sit with your emotions, observe them without judgment, let them speak their truths. In doing so, you do not remain trapped, you simply acknowledge what has been. Often the desire to move on stems from fear that you are weak if you linger, fear that life will pass you by while you are still hurting. But there is courage in presence, there is strength in facing what you wish to avoid. When you allow yourself to feel fully, you create a space where transformation can occur naturally. It is in this space that the grip of the past loosens, not through denial, not through distraction, but through understanding. Do not confuse letting go with abandoning memory or forgetting. Letting go is the gentle act of releasing attachment. It is recognizing that experiences, no matter how painful, have shaped you, and yet they do not define the entirety of your being. You honor your journey by acknowledging every scar, every tear, every shadow, and in that acknowledgement you find liberation. Instead of forcing yourself to move on, cultivate acceptance. Accept that some days will feel heavy, and that healing is not linear. Engage with the present moment fully. Notice the small joys that surround you, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of birds, the rhythm of your own breath. These simple realities anchor you when the mind is restless. Through this grounded attention, the heart begins to soften, and the weight of the past eases naturally. Patience becomes your companion. You understand that time is not an enemy to be hurried, but a partner in growth. The past does not vanish instantly, but in each moment of mindful presence, the heart learns to release what it no longer needs to hold tightly. Moving on, then, is not a forced act. It is the natural outcome of acceptance, reflection, and gentle self-compassion. So, pause. Stop urging yourself forward as though the next step alone can erase yesterday. Breathe deeply, feel fully, watch the currents of your mind without judgment. In this stillness you discover that true freedom does not come from moving on at speed. It comes from allowing yourself to be, here and now, exactly as you are. And when you do this, when you truly allow yourself to be present with your own experience, something remarkable happens. You move on not because you forced yourself, but because your heart has quietly, patiently learned to release. True peace and moving on cannot be achieved by rushing or forcing yourself. The mind and heart need time and awareness. There is a quiet suffering that arises from forcing yourself to heal too quickly, from believing that moving on is an act of strength achieved through speed rather than understanding. In our modern world, there is a constant pressure to be productive, to overcome setbacks instantly, to show resilience as though it were a medal earned by ignoring the weight in your chest. Yet the heart does not respond to pressure. It cannot be rushed or coerced into peace. When you push yourself to move forward before you are ready, you only deepen the tension within. It is as if you were trying to sprint across a river, only to find that the water rises higher with every step. Healing, like water, follows its own rhythm, and it requires patience, observation, and gentle guidance. Forcing yourself to move on often comes from a place of discomfort. You may feel restless with the heaviness in your mind, the lingering sorrow in your heart, or the echoes of past mistakes. You may tell yourself that you are weak if you do not act, that life will pass you by while you remain in stillness, that you must somehow erase the past in order to be free. But true freedom does not come from denial or avoidance. It comes from presence, from allowing yourself to sit with what is, without judgment or hurry. The mind resists what it cannot control, and when you attempt to control every thought, every memory, every emotion, you only invite more tension. The harder you push, the more the weight of the past seems to press down until it becomes unbearable. There is a simple truth to understand. The heart needs space to process. Just as a seed cannot be forced to grow overnight, emotions cannot be rushed. If you attempt to force yourself to move on, you may find temporary relief, a brief escape from the intensity of your feelings. But this relief is superficial. It is like sweeping dust under a carpet. The dust remains, waiting patiently to be acknowledged. Healing is not a matter of ignoring or suppressing pain. It is a matter of meeting it with awareness. You begin by noticing what you feel, naming it in your own mind, and allowing it to exist without immediately seeking to change it. Sitting with your pain does not mean remaining trapped. On the contrary, it is in the acceptance of what is that liberation begins. Each moment you allow yourself to experience fully, each tear, each sigh, each memory acknowledged creates a gentle release. You learn that emotions are not permanent, that they ebb and flow like the tides. By ceasing to force yourself to move on, you give your heart the opportunity to understand itself, to learn its own rhythm, and to find its own path to peace. Patience becomes your ally, and awareness becomes your guide. Many people fear that by pausing they will stagnate, that the world will leave them behind while they dwell in their grief or confusion. Yet the opposite is true. By giving yourself the time to truly feel, you cultivate resilience that cannot be attained through avoidance. The mind becomes clearer, the heart softer, and the spirit stronger. You begin to see that moving on is not a single act, but a gradual unfolding, a natural process that cannot be forced without consequence. Each moment of conscious presence, each act of gentle observation is a step forward, even if it does not resemble the hurried progress you once imagined. So, do not rush. Do not coerce yourself into a state of readiness before you are prepared. Honor the pace at which your heart can move. Recognize that forcing yourself to move on is an attempt to control what cannot be controlled, a resistance to the natural flow of experience. Instead, cultivate stillness. Sit with your emotions. Breathe with awareness. Observe the currents of your mind as they rise and fall. In doing so, you create the conditions in which healing can arise naturally, in which the weight of the past gradually softens, and in which the heart, free from force, learns the quiet art of letting go. In time, you will discover that peace is not the result of hurried action, but of patience, presence, and understanding. You do not need to force your heart to move forward. You only need to allow it to be, to breathe, and to release at its own pace. And in that gentle allowance, true freedom is found. Face emotions with awareness, sit with your feelings without judgment, allowing them to be fully experienced as teachers rather than enemies. Acceptance over avoidance, letting go, is not forgetting or abandoning the past, but gently releasing attachment while honoring your experiences. Be present, focus on the present moment, simple joys, your breath, and mindfulness rather than trying to escape or fast-forward life. Natural. Progress through patience, healing and moving on occur naturally through patience, reflection, and self-compassion, not through force.